A light flashed in Yang Tong's eyes. Actually, it was not unheard of for two sisters to serve the same husband, but would Du Er agree? Furthermore, is the prince willing to marry both of them? Yang Tong looked at Xiao Wanyu, his expression as if he wanted to say something but stopped. Xiao Wan took the opportunity to add fuel to the fire. Sister, can you bear to let me go? Or do you want me to stay by your side forever? Of course I want to. From now on, I will treat you as my shadow, eating, drinking, and sleeping together. How about it? Xiao Wanyu grabbed Xiao Waner's hand, squeezed it tightly, and squeezed it hard. Sister, it hurts. I'm just suggesting, Xiao Waner grimaced in pain, but still chose her words skillfully. How about we marry into the royal palace together, so that the two sisters can be together forever? As soon as she finished speaking, the atmosphere fell silent for a moment. Finally, Su Shouran coughed lightly and said, I will only marry a Du only one in this life, no one else. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone was shocked. It was already normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines, let alone a prince. The royal family placed great importance on continuing the family line, the more children the better, yet he made such an oath. Fake. Humph. Xiao Waner sneered in her heart. Xiao Waner also had some complicated feelings. She had never asked Su Shouran to do so. After 2 lifetimes, she had actually long been indifferent to love affairs. The reason she was with Su Shouran, besides repaying her debt, was because he was Zair's biological father. Deep down, she still hoped to find a way to make up for the pain that Zair had suffered, but what exactly to do, she still didn't know. Yang Tong heard this, her goodwill towards Su Shouran increased rapidly. A man only had 1 wife? Mr. Xia only had Mrs. Xia as his main wife, and had never taken a concubine. Su Shouran must be the same as Mr. Xia. Perhaps Su Shouran was a trustworthy person. Thinking of this, Yang Tong was secretly happy for his daughter. This future son-in-law seemed very trustworthy. Your Highness, this subject doesn't want to marry you. I only hope that elder sister can take this subject away. The palace is so big, can't you give this servant a small courtyard? Xiao Waner said softly, I don't even need a courtyard, just being close to elder sister is enough, that way this servant can stay by elder sister's side forever. In short, Xiao Waner was determined to play a prank, determined to find a way to separate them, to have Xiao Wandu marry Chu Mu Xian, to make everything go according to her plan. Cough. I already said it, only a Do. Chu Tu Ran covered her mouth and coughed, not letting Xiao Wan continue. The marriage hasn't come yet, let's think about it later. Xiao Wanyu smiled faintly, I'm afraid I won't live to see the wedding day. Great, thank you sister, thank you parents. Xiao Wan immediately exclaimed. Xia Jing and Yang Tong, why does everything sound wrong? Immediately after, Xiao Wan walked closer to Chu Tu Ran, pretending to miss a step, staggering and falling. Chu Tu Ran saw this and immediately stood up, reflexively trying to reach out to support her. Seeing Chu Tu Ran's action, the corner of Xiao Wan mouth slightly curved up. Was she caught so easily? She secretly felt smug in her heart, no longer having any reservations. She deliberately fell harder, thinking that since there was someone to support her, getting hurt wouldn't matter. But at the crucial moment, Chu Tu Ran suddenly coughed violently, her body staggered, her hand just reached out and stopped. The result? Only hearing a thud, Xiao Waner fell flat on her face like a dog in mud. Her delicate and charming face was also distorted. The fall hurt so much that her whole body was limp. The humiliation was unbearable. You sick pervert. You can't even do such a small thing. Xiao Waner muttered in her heart. The maid beside her wanted to help Xiao Waner, but was stopped by Xiao Waner. How is little sister? Are you hurt? Does it hurt a lot? Xiao Waner pretended to be concerned, pulling Xiao Waner up. Halfway through, Xiao Waner's hand suddenly slipped, and Xiao Waner thud again. Little sister, sorry, I suddenly got a cramp. Xiao Wanyu kept apologizing, but when she pulled Xiao Wanyu up again, she fell again. This happened over and over again. Xiao Wanyu, you are so cruel. Xia Wanyu angrily scolded. When she saw Xia Wanyu trying to reach out to pull her again, she dodged as if she had seen a ghost. Finally, Yang Tong felt sorry, so she stepped forward to help her up. In retaliation, Xia Wanyu secretly pinched Yang Tong a few times, causing her to groan in pain. Seeing this, Xia Wanyu rushed forward to push Xia Wanyu. Xia Wanyu fell down, and even hit the table leg. The pain was so bad that she thought her bones were broken. Little sister, sorry, my foot slipped. Xia Wanyu pretended to be sorry again, but her voice was full of indifference. Don't come here. Let Jin Ping hold on. Xia Wanyu screamed in fear. Behind, Su Xiaoran stepped forward and respectfully said to Xie Jing and Yang Tong, Old General and Madam, I will definitely listen to you too. I hope you two can help them reconcile. Today is not a good day to talk more, perhaps we should organize a walk outside the city, what do you think? Xie Jing and Yang Tong wanted to refuse, but when they touched the Buddhist scriptures in their pockets, they hesitated. What should we do now? Everyone turned their eyes to Xia Wanyu. All right. Xia Wanyu agreed almost without hesitation, and even seemed very excited. Then let's go, haha. Xie Jing and Yang Tong forced a smile, but their expressions were not happy at all. Su Xiaoran looked at Xia Wanyu, her eyes full of affection, little by little, filled with reluctance. But at that moment, Xia Wanyu suddenly exclaimed, I want to go too. All eyes immediately turned to Xia Wanyu. Aha! Didn't you say earlier that you would bring me back to the palace? Then now, I also need to get used to it with you and the prince. Only then can we get along under the same roof. Besides, I'm bored to death staying at home, let's go out and get some fresh air. Sister, take me along. Xia Wanyu coquettishly begged. Sister, your leg hasn't healed yet, you just fell. Xia Wanyu hesitated. Your leg is just dislocated, the doctor has already said it, it's just a little sore now, nothing serious. It's fine if you fall again just now. Xia Wanyu said, then gently brushed away the strands of hair covering her face, pretending to be comfortable. Wanyu. Yang Tong stepped forward, intending to advise a few words, thinking that the couple was going out, would she become an oil lamp? But Xia Wanyu immediately interrupted Yang Tong, okay, let's go together. Really? That's great. Thank you, sister. Sister, wait for me a moment, I'll go back and change my clothes. After saying that, Xia Wanyu immediately asked Jin Ping to help her go back to the dressing room. After Xia Wanyu left, Xia Wanyu turned to ask Su Xiaoran, little sister, do you mind if I follow you? Okay, as long as Adu wants it. Su Xiaoran smiled brightly. Xia Wanyu was momentarily stunned, her heart melting sweetly. After that, Xie Jing and Yang Tong also left. Now only Xia Wanyu and Su Xiaoran were left. Xia Wanyu signaled Su Xiaoran to come to the table, told everyone to retreat, leaving only a few guards to keep watch, then the two of them talked privately with each other. 2 moments later, Xia Wanyu had finished changing and walked out. Seeing Xia Wanyu's way of dressing, the corner of Xia Wanyu's mouth slightly curled up into a meaningful smile. Xia Wanyu wore a light peach silk dress, embroidered with delicate flowers, highlighting her charming figure. Her hair was tied halfway up, combined with the jewelry was just enough, making her look more elegant and graceful. The makeup was just right, the small scratches on her face seemed to add to her fragile and pitiful appearance, creating a fragile beauty that easily made men want to protect her. Xia Wanyu had a bit of a headache at this moment. Your Highness, I've kept you waiting. Xia Wanyu slowly walked towards Su Xiaoran, her graceful appearance, sweet voice, and seductive eyes filled with intrigue. Miss Xia is too polite. Su Xiaoran stared at Xia Wanyu, her eyes slightly absent-minded. Seeing this, Xia Wanyu frowned and stepped forward to block Xia Wanyu's gaze. The horse is ready, let's go. Xia Wanyu not only changed her way of dressing, but also practiced her seductive tricks to the point of proficiency. If Aran was seduced, she would truly be beyond help. Yes, sister. Xia Wanyu obediently replied, but when she climbed into the carriage, she did not forget to flirt with Su Xiaoran. Su Xiaoran was stunned again. It's true that illness causes the spirit to be weak, unable to resist. Very good. Xiaowaner thought to herself and then slipped into the carriage. However, she did not know that Su Tuním's eyes immediately became clear, sharp as a knife, only coldness remained. Su Tuním did this simply to warn Xiaowandu to be wary of Xiaowaner. Originally, if Xiaowaner did not accompany her, Xiaowandu would have ridden the same horse as Su Tuním. But because Xiaowandu did not want Xiaowaner to touch the horse that Su Tuním usually rode, she let Xiaowaner sit in the Xia family's carriage with her and Su Tuním rode the horse beside her. Xiaowaner started to act up. Along the way through the bustling market, Xiaowaner kept pointing at the stalls on the side of the road. Her effeminate voice rang out, "Your Highness, that bell is so beautiful. Look at that pinwheel. Oh, candied fruit, Your Highness, I want to eat candied fruit." Xiaowaner's loud calls attracted the attention of the crowd, and the whispers continued, "Is this the Xia family's carriage? Is that girl Miss Xia? She really has a delicate appearance, it must be Miss Xia. That's right, Miss Xia eldest is strong and free-spirited, she has never shown such curiosity before. And that coquettish appearance is definitely not her. Who is that person riding the horse? Is it the prince? Oh my god. Aren't the prince and Miss Xia eldest already engaged? Then why did she appear with Miss Xia? Could it be a misunderstanding? Or has the prince changed his mind? Oh my god, Miss Xia eldest has been abandoned? It's true that men often prefer weak and gentle girls. Xiaowaner was pleased, thinking that she had successfully created false rumors to make Xiaowaner lose face. However, Xiaowaner smiled and said softly, "Since little sister likes it so much, I will buy it for you." After saying that, Xiaowaner got off her horse and reached out to Su Xiaoran. "Ah Ran, let's go buy things for little sister." Su Xiaoran immediately got off her horse and walked into the market with Xiaowaner. The crowd continued to gossip, so the eldest miss also sat in the carriage. What a good older sister, even bringing her younger sister along to play. The eldest miss and the prince are really a perfect match. Looking at the two of them, they look like gods descending to earth. Indeed, I only wish to be like this pair of mandarin ducks. Xiaowaner and Su Xiaoran strolled through the market together, shopping and laughing happily, looking extremely relaxed. Xiaowaner was different, even though she asked Jean Ping to help her, she still had to struggle to squeeze through the crowd. Every time she tried to get close to the two of them, they would walk ahead, then be blocked by the bustling crowd. In the end, Xiaowaner couldn't touch them, she was sweating profusely, her body was wet, looking extremely disheveled. When she couldn't stand it anymore, Xiaowaner got angry and angrily returned to the carriage. At first, Xiaowaner thought that Xiaowaner and Su Xiaoer would come back right after buying, but she sat in the carriage waiting for a long time, waiting until she doubted her life, and finally saw the two of them laughing and chatting happily as they leisurely returned. On the way back, they also stopped by a bakery. Su Xiaoer bought cakes for Xiaowaner. When they passed by the handkerchief stall, he also bought a few for her. When they got to the jewelry and lipstick stalls, oh my god, it was indescribable, only to see Su Turan holding each piece of jewelry, trying each one on Xiaowandu. He looked as if he wanted to buy out the entire counter for her to try on. Arriving at the lipstick stall, Su Turan pointed from place to place, the stall owner kept talking non-stop, as if he was wholeheartedly explaining the magical uses of each lipstick. Jean Ping, have you brought your bow and arrows yet? Xiaowaner was furious, wanting to personally shoot Su Turan and Xiaowandu into porcupines. "Miss, it seems like we didn't bring our bows and arrows, we only have swords," Jean Ping replied wholeheartedly. Xiaowaner didn't say another word after hearing that, only glared angrily, her eyes seemed to want to shoot out poisonous arrows. Oh my god. Making the lantern, background, today was such a failure. Xiaowaner's anger grew more and more, finally waiting for Xiaowaner and Su Xiaoran to return. "The market is so crowded, little sister. I'm so tired because I bought you some things." Xiaowaner climbed onto the carriage while stuffing the candied hawthorn and small bells into Xiaowaner's hands. Xiaowaner reluctantly reached out to receive them, but ended up getting her hands smeared with oil, but she still had to pretend to be happy. thank you, big sister, you're so good to me. In her heart, she was cursing and swearing all sorts of things, only lacking writing them down. Let's continue, Xiaowaner smiled gently and ordered. Big sister, where are we going? Xiaowaner tried to suppress her anger and asked. To Qingtian Manor. Xiaowaner replied. Xiaowaner suddenly stopped after hearing this. Could this be the place where she was kidnapped? Ever since Xiaowaner was kidnapped, Yang Tong and Xiaowaner were afraid of touching the painful memories, so no one came to this place anymore. All the big and small matters in Qingtian Manor were handled and reported by the Xia Manor's manager. Yang Tong had even considered selling this whole manor before. Sister, why did you suddenly come to Qingtian Manor? Xiaowaner looked at Xiaowaner intently, trying to find any loopholes, but she didn't see any signs. I didn't plan to go, but since you came with me today, I thought of bringing you here to help you overcome your fear. Xiaowaner looked at Waner with eyes filled with love. Little sister, that happened a long time ago. We should face it. Sister is right. Xiaowaner gently wiped the corner of her eyes, pretending to be emotional. It's unfortunate, but also fortunate, thanks to you always being by my side, not abandoning me, otherwise I would have long since become a useless, good-for-nothing person. Sister, thank you. Since we are sisters, of course we must love and care for each other. The two sisters said a few sweet words, but in their hearts, they just wanted to strangle each other. The carriage passed through the bustling market, crossed the official road, and weaved through many small roads, finally arriving at Qingtian Manor. Xiaowaner did not bother the manager of the manor, but rode directly to the back of the mountain. Xiaowaner had been kidnapped before, and returned safely, but this area was even more dense than before, with weeds growing wildly, creating a mysterious atmosphere. This place is still as beautiful as ever. It's really wonderful, Xiaowaner said as she turned around a few times, it's just that my legs still hurt a bit. Do you need me to carry you? Xiaowanyu suggested. Huh? Even though you are a little stronger than me, you are still a girl, so men should do the piggybacking. Xiaowanyu said, then turned to look at Su Turan, her eyes sparkling, her smile full of hidden meaning. You're right, Su Turan coughed twice, intending to step forward, but almost tripped over a tree root. Xiaowanyu quickly supported Su Turan, worriedly saying, Iran, you're not even steady on your feet, how can you carry someone? Ma Song, carry my sister. Ma Song, the servant who followed them, was a man. Yes, young lady. Ma Song heard the order, immediately jumped in front of Xiaowanyu, respectfully knelt down, young lady, please get on my back. Xiaowanyu tried to avoid feeling annoyed, this servant's whole body was covered in the smell of horse, getting close made me want to vomit. Just as she was about to politely refuse, Xiaowanyu suddenly became alert and said loudly, who is it? Immediately after, from the bushes, a person rushed out, drawing his sword and aiming straight at Xiaowanyu to attack. Wanyu. Su Shouran reacted and wanted to rush out to block, but was pushed away by Xiaowanyu. She quickly turned around to avoid the attack, then drew her sword from her waist, directly engaging the attacker. That person covered his face with a scarf, but unfortunately his martial arts were not as good as Xiaowanyu's, and was quickly controlled by her. You dare to assassinate me alone? Xiaowanyu said and pulled down the scarf covering that person's face, revealing a masculine, stern face. Xiaowanyu looked closely but still couldn't recognize him. Humph, none of you Xia family are good people. The man puffed out his chest and said loudly. Whether you want to kill or skin me, it's up to you. This tone, it sounds like we have a grudge. Could it be that you are a spy from the enemy country? Xiaowanyu judged. It really is Miss Xia. Such a judgment is reasonable to highlight one's nobility, right? The man sneered. What grudge should be faced and resolved, this despicable assassination is no different from a rat in a sewer. Xiaowanyu brandished her sword, threatening. If you don't believe me, I'll cut your tongue off first. Oh, are you the one who caused trouble at the town's winehouse last time? The one who kidnapped the girl named you and was taken back to the capital? Hearing these words, Xiaowanyu's entire body trembled as if she had been electrocuted. That's right, the matter at the wine house last time, if we don't mention it, you won't remember your crimes. The man said fiercely. Xia Wanyu coldly replied, the matter of trading information for profit in that town has been fully proven with evidence. So how did it become our Xia family's fault? The man was furious, the people in town have already admitted their guilt. But what is the fault of Miss Knock? Your father connived and let her mother die. Who among you is a good person? I am only asking for justice on behalf of Knock. Hearing the words, the people in town are guilty, Ta Yuyanni could not contain her anger, her blood rushed to her head. She rushed forward and punched the man repeatedly, while hitting and cursing, you scum. The man was acupressured, unable to move, but his mouth did not stop, that's right. Your Ta family all deserve to die, you are just a useless person, what is the point of living to lose face? Little sister, calm down a bit. If you hit like this, you will hurt yourself. Ta Yuyandu hugged Yuyanni, pressing a few acupressure points to make her stop. Sister, I just. Yuyanni wanted to say more, but Ta Yuyandu spoke first. I couldn't stand other people hurting and slandering our family, so I lost my temper. You should sit down and rest, let me handle this matter. Yuyanni obediently nodded, letting Kembin help her stand in a corner. Miss Yu's mother passed away. My father also regretted it. So we searched for her body many times, wanting to bring it back to town to bury next to her father's grave. But where is Miss Yu? And why did you do that? Xia Wanyu asked the man. Humph. Mother passed away, and you suffered enough, because she didn't have her father to protect her. But you was a kind person, and didn't blame anyone, the man said indignantly. I brought her back to take revenge, but everything really can't be blamed on your Xia family. Xia Wanyu continued to ask, that's right, what was my father's fault? He was an excellent military commander, and also a very upright person. Didn't your father admire him the most? The man began to talk non-stop about the good things about Xia Jing, Xia Wanyu's father. Xia Wanner was so angry that she almost went crazy. Shut up. Who gave you permission to judge my father like that? What's wrong with praising him? It only makes me more disgusted. Her hands clenched tightly, her nails digging into her flesh, trying to restrain herself from rushing to hit the man in front of her. The anger that could not be released caused the blood in her body to surge. She felt choked, blood almost gushing out of her throat. But because she was afraid that Xia Wanner would suspect her, she had to swallow that hot blood back. The man continued to praise General Xia endlessly. Enough! Xia Wanner almost shouted. Little sister, what's wrong? Xia Wanner turned her head and asked, her eyes filled with concern. He's just saying good things about our Xia family right now. Ah. Nothing. Xia Wanner's thoughts changed very quickly, and in the blink of an eye, she found an excuse. It's just that I think he seems to have a smooth tongue and is too clever with his words. He must be stalling for time to wait for his accomplices to arrive. He definitely has accomplices. Sister, kill him and then we'll leave. You're talking nonsense. The man immediately retorted, his voice filled with anger. I'm just a guy named Li Shun, formerly a homeless child in the capital. Thanks to Miss Noc's constant help, after she escaped, I followed her to protect her. Those days were extremely miserable. Once we were captured, and almost thrown into a pot to be cooked. Luckily, a magician who passed by saved us. He even took us in as his disciples, teaching us some skills, which is why we've survived until today. Even though she lived in such a situation, Miss Knock never complained or thought of taking revenge on your Xia family. She is truly a kind and benevolent woman. Hearing this, Xia Wanner felt as if she had been stabbed in the heart. What this person said was ridiculous, but also made her think. The story of when she and a merchant group escaped, originally without anyone accompanying her. But then there was the matter of that master saving Li Shun, so what exactly happened? Li Shun's words were mixed with truth and falsehood, making her not know what was right and what was wrong. It's not uncommon for people to have the same name and surname in this world. The stories he told were a bit strange, but could still happen. The strangest thing was the matter of meeting that master. Could it be that Li Shun was a professional swindler? Yes, definitely. He must have heard the story about the Xie family, then embellished it to make things more exciting and interesting, to arouse the curiosity of others. But to be more sure, Xie Wan'er decided to try to probe him one more time. Humph. Your master taught you a few cat-scratching tricks and you dare to come here alone to assassinate him? You really disgrace your master. She laughed contemptuously, deliberately provoking him. What? My master is very formidable. His martial arts are unparalleled. Li Shun raised his head and loudly refuted, Don't brag. Xie Wan'er continued to use provocation. What are you bragging about? Li Shun was so angry that his face turned red, and he began to talk non-stop. In addition to martial arts, my master also knows how to breathe fire, break rocks on his chest, swallow swords, walk on a tightrope, and shoot darts blindfolded. And the most formidable thing is fortune-telling. These are all just circus acts, to make money. And the master's most powerful technique, the technique of exchange, was not mentioned by him, which proves that what he said was all made up. Li Shun is definitely a fraud. Xie Jing, wanting to show his benevolence and virtue, sent someone to find Jiang Yu. As a result, he was taken advantage of by some scammers. In the past, there were also many people who came with fake news to receive rewards, but Xie Jing was not a fool, he was not easily fooled. This time was different, they were even more cunning. Li Shun was the leader of this group, clearly playing tricks. This time he would definitely cause Xie Jing to suffer miserably. Just keep fooling, fool those Xie family idiots. Just keep making a mess, causing the Xie family to become even more chaotic. The more Xie Wan'er thought about it, the angrier she became, but on the surface she pretended to be worried and advised, Sister, he's just a swindler. Li Shun heard this and immediately retorted, Who's the swindler? Your whole family is the swindler. You. Xie Wan'er could barely contain herself and almost rushed to hit Li Shun again. Oh. Little sister, our father was a bit stubborn in looking for Jiang Yu. It's better to catch the wrong one than to let him go. This Li Shun guy also has a clear reason, so let's just bring him back to the mansion to see father, and let father judge for himself. After Li Shun heard this, he immediately raised his head and argued back. Who followed you back to the mansion? Who wants to see your old father? You no longer have the right to decide now. You've already touched our Xie family, do you think you can retreat so easily? Xie Wanyu smiled lightly, her eyes sharp. Not long after, she turned to Chu Tu-Nim and instructed, Nim, please help me bring him back to the mansion. Chu Tu-Nim nodded in acceptance of the order. There's nothing else to do here, let's go back to the mansion. After speaking, Xie Wandu climbed onto the horse. Xie Wan'er was also helped onto the horse by Jin Ping, her face still full of anger. Chu Tu-Nim did not sit on the horse but led it behind, dragging Li Shun behind her. Hey! Let me go. I'll walk myself. I don't need you to pull me like this. Hey, why are you Xie family so arrogant? Li Shun cursed loudly as he walked, but was still neatly dragged away by Chu Tu-Nim. As soon as they returned home, Xie Wandu immediately sent someone to inform her father, Xie Jing. Therefore, when the group of people just returned to the Xie mansion, they saw Xie Jing waiting. Where's Yu Er? Where's Yu Er? Xie Jing stretched his neck to look, his voice filled with worry. Father, there is still no news of you. You really isn't here. Xie Wanyu said with a heartbroken voice, trying to comfort her father. However, in order to keep his promise to an old friend, Xie Jing had been constantly searching for news of you, even though he had been deceived many times. Old General Xie, this is Yu's friend. Su Xiaoran pulled Li Shun in front of Xie Jing. Why are you tying him up like this? Xie Jing immediately ordered Li Shun to be untied. Xie Wanyu stood in front of her father, trying to warn him. What's so dangerous? Our whole family has been to battle and we're not afraid. Xie Jing pushed his daughter aside, personally untied Li Shun, and dragged him into the mansion. Let's go, I want to hear about you. Father. Xiao Wanyu hurriedly followed. Behind, Xiao Wano looked at this scene, and couldn't help but curl the corners of her lips into a cold smile. She thought to herself, let them be miserably fooled by these swindlers, they deserve it. When they returned to the guest hall, Xie Jing pulled Li Shun in to sit and talk. Xiao Wanyu, Sua Shuran, and Xiao Waner stood to the side and watched. You said that after visiting her parents' grave, she would ask the general to take care of her. You will probably go to the capital later. First, she asked to find a place to stay temporarily. Li Shun stroked his mustache, speaking in a confident tone. After Xie Jing heard this, he could not hide his emotions. He even suggested that you come and stay directly in the general's residence, but Li Shun tactfully refused. We are not familiar with the capital. If the general could help us find a small place to stay, that would be great. Li Shun continued. All right, Wan Du, I'll leave the matter of finding a place to stay to you. You're a girl, so you'll understand what you means better. The general's residence will be responsible for the rental fee. Xie Jing finished speaking, and asked Li Shun where he was staying. When he learned that he didn't have a specific place to stay, he waved his hand and said, then young Master Li can stay at the general's residence for now. It's also convenient to discuss with Wan Du in that case. I will respectfully obey. Li Shun stood up, bowed to thank Xie Jing. Wan Du, you hurry up. Now go back for lunch, rest for a while, and then go to work immediately. Xie Jing turned to instruct his daughter. Father, I'm actually not very good at renting a house. Up until now, Xia Wandu had always been in charge of managing the family, but renting a house was really too unfamiliar to her. Alwan, let me go with you. Su Tu Ran took the opportunity to speak up. Seeing Xia Wanyu looking back at him with a puzzled expression, he immediately added, I'm familiar with these things anyway. Indeed, Su Tu Ran was a tactful person in everything. I've troubled you, Your Highness. If so, Your Highness, please stay in the mansion for lunch and rest, and arrange it while you're at it. Xie Jing invited. What a great idea. Su Tu Ran enthusiastically replied. Sister, I want to go too. Xia Wanyu interrupted. Of course she had to go to cause trouble. Okay. Xia Wanyu agreed decisively, not showing any surprise. After that, Xie Jing called someone to arrange Li Shun's accommodation, and she hurried to the military camp. Xia Wanyu sent Su Tu Ran back to the resting room, and Xia Wanyu also followed. It was thought that after sending Su Tu Ran back, Xia Wanyu would return to her courtyard. But no, she followed closely and said, Sister, I'll stay at your courtyard for lunch today. Xia Wanyu tried to hold back, and walked past the lotus pond. Suddenly, she pretended to slip and fall, and took the opportunity to push Xia Wanyu into the water. Ah! Qin Ping, watch her, call for help. Xia Wanyu was as worried as fire. Of course, she didn't really intend to save Xia Wanyu. Xia Wanyu struggled in the water, crawling to the shore by herself. After that, Xia Wanyu turned back to look for Su Shoran. Ah Du, why did you arrange everything like this? Xia Wanyu almost leaned close to Su Shoran's ear, and said in a low voice, because the Xia Wanyu in front of us is just a fake. Everything is to lure the snake out of the cave, to find the real Xia Wanyu. So that's how it is. Su Shoran tried to keep his expression of astonishment just enough. It took him a while to regain his composure, and said seriously, the plan is very good, but you must be careful, don't let yourself get hurt. Su Tu Ran was secretly happy. He didn't expect Xia Wanyu to quickly discover that Xia Wan was a fake. Could it be that fate had changed? That was great. If so, then this time he wouldn't have to sacrifice himself to let Xia Wanyu see Xia Wan's true face. Now, she had realized everything herself and no longer blamed him. Perhaps in this life, they wouldn't have to suffer such a tragic ending like before. Su Tu Ran secretly hoped that Xia Wanyu would have a happy ending in this life. Thank you, Aran. Can you send 2 secret guards who are good at tracking to help me? Xia Wanyu asked. Ah Du, I'm sorry. I have to confess something. Su Tu Ran hesitated for a moment, then said, I've always had secret guards secretly protect you for a long time. After receiving Xia Wanyu's consent, Su Tu Ran immediately called the two secret guards who were hiding in the Xia mansion, Trui Men and Trui An. The two of them disguised themselves as ordinary servants in the Xia manor, hiding extremely well, truly talented. Sua Xiaoran ordered them, "Go and meet your master." Zhu Ming and Zhu Ying looked at each other, without saying anything, immediately kneeling before Xia Wanyu. "Greetings, master." "Ah Ran, thank you for lending me your people." Xia Wanyu humbly refused. But training secret guards really took a lot of effort and dedication. "As long as you need them, they're all yours, right?" Sua Xiaoran was a little sad, then asked softly. "All right, consider it as me accepting them." Xia Wanyu didn't hold back anymore, because right now, she really needed Sua Xiaoran's help. "Adieu, you are truly amazing." Chu Tunin was so happy that she smiled brightly. Trui Man and Trui An said, "Master entrusted the subordinates to Miss Ta to manage. Miss Ta is really important in Master's eyes. In the future, the subordinates will definitely work wholeheartedly for her." Xia Wandu thought, "Anim, actually you are really good. In the previous life, not only was you let down by me, but you also suffered a lot because of me." These words were ultimately not something she could say to Chu Tunin. Forget it, in this life, she would make it up to him a lot. At this point, Xia Wandu's expression became serious, and she instructed Trui Men and Trui An, "From now on, Trui Men will monitor Ta Yuyan Ni, and Trui An will be responsible for protecting me." "Yes, master." Trui Men and Trui An received the order, then retreated. "Ah Ran, rest well. We still have to go out together later." Xia Wanyu said goodbye to Su Shoran and returned to her courtyard. After Xia Wanyu left, Su Shoran did not rest, but quietly went to Li Shun. At this time, Li Shun was half lying on the bed, legs crossed, yawning and humming, "Wife hic, husband hic, tonight waiting hic." "Oh, it seems you are very comfortable." Su Shoran suddenly appeared beside him, leaning down to look at Li Shun. "Yeah, not bad." Li Shun closed his eyes and replied, suddenly feeling a shadow above him. Opening his eyes and seeing Su Shoran's face, he was so scared that he was startled, slid off the bed, and knelt down on the ground. In fact, Li Shun was a secret guard of Su Shoran. He was good at disguises, often playing different characters to probe for information. The last time at the manor, when Xia Wanyu asked for someone to pretend to be Yuer's accomplice, Chu Xiaoran assigned this task to Li Shun. "Your Highness, I'm not lazy, I just stood for too long, so I just lay down to rest for a while." Li Shun explained with a smile. "Your Highness, please calm down. Don't be nervous, stand up. Are you injured?" Chu Xiaoran sat down on the bed. Li Shun immediately massaged his legs. "Nothing serious, the skin isn't even scratched," Li Shun said honestly. Dangerous things like this were nothing to the secret guards. "Very good, very well done. This is a reward." Chu Xiaoran took out a bag of silver and gave it to Li Shun. "Thank you, Your Highness." Li Shun happily accepted it, secretly calculating in his heart that he would invite his brothers to a good drink. "Don't just think about drinking, you have to save some money to marry a wife." Sua Tu Ran patted the silver bag in Li Shun's hand. "How can a wife compare to wine, haha?" Li Shun laughed innocently. "Because you haven't met the right person yet." Sua Tu Ran thought of Xia Wandu, his eyes softened slightly. Then, he leaned close to Li Shun's ear, instructing him on what needed to be done. "Understood, Your Highness, your subordinate will definitely complete the mission well." Li Shun patted his chest and promised. "Drinking wine is fine, but absolutely do not let it ruin your work. Being a secret guard requires professionalism." "Good." Sua Tu Ran finished speaking and left. Li Shun lay back on the bed, put away his carefree appearance, and began to seriously plan for the assigned mission. On this side, Xia Wanyu returned to her courtyard and heard the sound of arguing. It turned out that Xia Wanyu was scolding Qingqing. Qingqing and a few other maids knelt on the ground, bowing their heads to endure the scolding, but resolutely refused to give in. What's going on? Xia Wanyu asked. Sister, this maid is so bold. I wanted to go to the room to rest, but she dared to stop me, and wouldn't let me in. She really deserves to be beaten. Xia Wanyu was both fierce and took the opportunity to make the first accusation. It turned out that after changing her clothes, Xia Wanyu planned to go to Xia Wanyu's courtyard, but unexpectedly, Xia Wanyu still hadn't returned. She immediately got angry, using the excuse to cause trouble with Qingqing, the room's guard. This is the rule. Qingqing, even parents have to obey. After Xia Wanyu finished speaking, she signaled Qingqing to lead the people away. Sister, don't you believe me? Can parents also go and steal? Xia Wanyu said with a resentful expression. It's not like that, I'm just afraid that everyone will mess around. What if they need to use it urgently? Xia Wanyu said as she walked. Xia Wanyu also followed behind. Entering the room, Xia Wanyu immediately ran around everywhere, from the closet to the dressing table, to search. Little sister, don't rummage through anything. Xia Wanyu reminded. Whatever you want, just tell me, I'll get it for you, but you can't take it on your own, understand? In Xia Wanyu's room, there was a very clear rule: anyone who rummages through anything without permission, no matter who it is, will be punished. Even Xia Wanyu was really no exception. When she was young, Xia Wanyu once secretly rummaged through her older sister's jewelry box, damaging a hidden weapon her father gave her. As a result, she was severely punished. From then on, Xia Wanyu didn't dare to repeat the offense. Sister, give me that eagle. Xia Wanyu deliberately coaxed her, intending to let Xia Wanyu take it out and then find a way to ruin it. Just leave it there, I don't want to take it out. Xia Wanyu said, then lay down on the bed with a lazy look. Oh, sister. Xia Wanyu wanted to say something more, but Xia Wanyu lost her patience and interrupted her. Little sister, if you're tired, go out to the yard and rest. If you're too tired, you can lie down for a while. Xia Wanyu said and closed her eyes. Xia Wanyu didn't dare say anything more, so she went to lie down on another bed. However, her eyes kept darting around, trying to guess where Xia Wanyu had hidden the eagle, waiting for a chance to steal it. The two of them were silent for a while. Suddenly, Xia Wanyu seemed to think of something, sighed softly, and asked, Little sister, what happened before? Do you still remember anything? Ever since she was rescued from the thieves' den, Xia Wanyu had suffered a serious head injury and her memory was not as good as before. Why are you suddenly asking this? Xia Wanyu was alert, afraid that Xia Wanyu was asking to test her, so she answered vaguely. What a pity. Xia Wanyu sighed. Xia Wanyu's attitude once again aroused Xia Wanyu's curiosity. She pressed on, Sister, do you remember anything? Xia Wanyu lowered her voice, seriously speaking to Xia Wanyu. Do you remember the time when your father was most worried about military provisions? Yes, mother often mentioned it. Xia Wanyu nodded, her interest growing. Then do you remember the time when father took us to the border, accidentally discovered a treasure, but immediately after that, war broke out, father didn't have time to dig up the treasure? At that time, the war situation was very dangerous, our army was in danger, father sent a team of guards to take us back first. Because he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to return alive, father divided the treasure map into 2 parts, giving it to the 2 of us. On the way, because we were worried that if we were both captured, the map would be exposed, so we each memorized half of the map. After father returned victoriously and led us back, he took back the map, but when he handed it back to father, because he saw that the situation was not yet stable and he could not send people to find the treasure immediately, he let us continue to keep it, thinking that keeping it ourselves would be safer than leaving it in the military camp. That's why, up until now, father, a general, let his 2 young children keep a treasure map. Then we were kidnapped, and you were seriously injured. Sister, do you remember half of your map? Treasure map? Xia Wanyu was a little confused. Chu Mushan had mentioned this treasure map before. The treasure was hidden in an ancient tomb. It was said that when Xie Jing accidentally entered that place, there were mountains of precious gems and jewels inside, enough to buy several countries. Chu Mushan wanted to win the throne, of course he needed a lot of money. If he could get this treasure, he would be invincible. As Su Muxian's ally, of course Xiao Waner had to think of a way to help him. Xiao Waner had never seen the map before, how could she remember? But she still pretended to try to recall. After a long while she sadly shook her head, I can't remember. Her eyes flashed, she came up with a plan. Sister, if you give me half of your map, maybe I'll remember. Just now Xiao Waner still refused to give me the swallow sculpture. Xiao Waner originally thought that asking for the treasure map would be harder than ascending to heaven, but unexpectedly Xiao Waner agreed immediately. Moreover, the speed at which the map was given out was surprisingly fast. You have to try to remember, only then can you help father. Xiao Wanyu said softly. Xiao Wanyu tried to suppress the joy in her heart, took half of the map and pretended to reminisce attentively, but in reality, she secretly memorized every detail on it. She had just memorized half of it when Xiao Wanyu interrupted her. How is it? Have you remembered yet? It seems like, a little bit. Xiao Wanyu replied, her eyes still not leaving the map. Sister, let me look at it a little more, I think I'll remember. All right. Xiao Wanyu didn't stop her, she lay down on the bed and continued to pretend to take a nap. Xiao Wanyu memorized the entire contents of the half map before returning it to Xiao Wanyu, pretending to be regretful. Oh, I still can't remember. It's okay, sister. If it's a gift destined by heaven, then only those with the right fate can get it. If you really can't remember, it means that this treasure has no fate with our Xia family, don't force it. Xiao Wanyu said as she put the map away. But in fact, this map had been modified in some details, and there was absolutely no fear of Xiao Waner secretly remembering it. In other words, even if Xiao Waner memorized it, it would be useless. After all, if you want to catch the wolf, you have to lose the goat. That's right, sister, about the treasure, father also left behind a secret formula. In the past, father quietly told us, each person half a sentence. Xiao Wanyu hadn't finished speaking yet. Xiao Waner interrupted, what half a sentence? It has to be the two of us putting it together to make it complete. As soon as Xiao Wanyu finished speaking, Xiao Waner secretly cursed in her heart, what's so strange? Is Xie Jing sick? But on the outside, she didn't dare to reveal it, and still smiled and said, father is really wise, no wonder he became a general. I can remember a little bit of that secret code already. Xiao Wanyu comforted her, it's okay, wait until you remember the contents of half the map, you will definitely remember the secret code. Xiao Waner nodded, that makes sense. Oh, I think I missed something, I'll go back and get more. In fact, she just wanted to go back and check what she had just remembered about the map, afraid that there might be some mistakes. Right when Xiao Waner finished speaking, a maid came to report, Su Tu Ran is waiting in the courtyard. Sister, if you have anything left, just take it here, no need to go back, it will also save the prince from having to wait too long. How could Xiao Wanyu let Xiao Waner escape so easily? All right. I suddenly feel a little dizzy. Xiao Waner pretended to rub her forehead, after all, she had already informed Su Muxian to let him come and sabotage. There was no need to rush anymore. You want to escape, right? But since we're going together, then don't even think about being lazy. If you're lacking anything, just say it, what is it that you're lacking, that you don't have? Xiao Waner suddenly moved closer to Xiao Waner, looked straight into her eyes and asked, what exactly did you forget to bring? Xiao Waner laughed awkwardly, haha, it's not that important, there's no need for it. If that's the case, let's go. Xiao Waner didn't give Xiao Waner a chance to escape, pulling her straight out. Outside, the horse was already prepared. Like last time, Xiao Wanyu and Xiao Wanyu rode the same horse, Qingqing sat in the carriage in front, and Su Shouran rode beside her. Unlike last time, this time Li Shan followed. Just like that, a strange and crowded group of people set off from the general's residence, heading towards the rental house. Rental house transactions are usually handled by separate management offices, which are quite scattered but also very professional. Xingjing City is a place where all classes gather, from the rich and powerful to the poor. Normally, when choosing a rental house, people with their status would prioritize the areas reserved for the powerful to avoid trouble. However, Xiao Wanyu thought more realistically. Although Xia Wanyu was originally from the capital, she had been away from this place for many years, and did not understand the rules of living. If she was not careful and chose the wrong area, she would most likely accidentally collide with the powerful, causing more trouble. Merchant districts, where different classes live in harmony, are more tolerant, and are often built spaciously and conveniently. Choosing to rent here not only saves space for the general's residence, but also makes Xia Wan'er feel more comfortable and free. Therefore, Xia Wan'er decided to lead the group to the merchant rental area. After half an hour, they finally arrived at the most famous rental area in Xingjing. As soon as Xia Wan'er got off her horse, she saw someone she hated so much, Su Muxian. Oh, what a coincidence, meeting Miss Xia and second Miss Xia here. Su Muxian acted friendly, taking the initiative to greet her. Su Turan just squinted her eyes and smiled faintly, not saying anything, and nodded slightly in return. Xia Wan'er originally didn't want to talk to this scumbag, but Xia Wan'er next to her pretended to be happy, exaggeratingly saying, "Your Highness, we meet again. It's true that our general's residence has a connection with you." Xia Wanyu coldly said, "Isn't it more appropriate that the prince and my sister are fated?" "Your Highness, you seem to like my sister very much, so you intentionally created these coincidences, right? If that's the case, why don't you try proposing?" This morning, Iran even came to the general's residence to ask for her hand in marriage. My sister was very disappointed, she kept nagging me, asking why the prince hadn't come to propose yet. "Your Highness, if you're so interested, why don't you go to the general's residence to propose, and ask to marry my sister?" "What a pair of dogs, hurry up and tie them together." Xia Wanyu was shocked after hearing this, glaring at Xia Wanyu. "Sister, why would you say such things?" Xia Wanyu calmly replied, "Sister, don't be shy. When you meet someone you like, you have to be brave enough to pursue them. I will support you with all my heart." Xia Wanyu quickly denied, "Sister, that's not it, I don't like the prince." Xia Wanyu smiled meaningfully, yes, I don't like it, but didn't you just praise the prince this afternoon for being handsome, talented, and kind, and said that no one could compare? You flattered him to the point that it made people think you liked the prince very much." After hearing this, Su Muxian smiled with satisfaction, glanced at Xia Wanyu, her eyes seemed to secretly blame him. Successes are few, failures are many. Xia Wanyu felt extremely wronged. "Xia Wanyu, what are you doing?" Su Muxian coughed a few times, awkwardly explaining, "Miss Xia was probably just joking. I hope Miss won't misunderstand. Please don't say such things in the future, to avoid affecting Miss's reputation." "Ah?" Xia Wanyu pretended to be surprised, but in just a moment, her face darkened, her voice filled with anger. "So it turns out that the prince thinks that my sister was kidnapped by bandits, and has a bad reputation? If so, from now on, we Xia family will keep our distance from you, so as not to tarnish your noble reputation." Su Muxian, 3 dots. Xia Wanyu, 3 dots. What does Miss Xia mean? After a long while, Su Muxian finally found his voice. "My meaning is very clear. Your Highness, criticizing my sister means criticizing our entire Xia family." Su Muxian, there's nothing more to say. Dare to criticize our Xia family, aren't you still trying to find ways to please us? Su Muxian was furious in his heart. Xia Wanyu was right, Xia Wanyu really changed, she has a bit of an evil aura. Actually, I really admire Miss Xia. Su Muxian tried to explain again. "Alright, Your Highness, don't force yourself." Ta Yuyandu did not give any face, showing the appearance of a righteous older sister protecting her younger sister. "If Your Highness does not like my younger sister, please stay away from us, do not let her be sad." Su Muxian, there's nothing more to say. He turned to look at Xia Wan'er, hoping that she could help him turn the situation around. Xia Wan'er recognized Su Muxian's signal, and was about to speak when Xia Wan'er interrupted. "Little sister, if they look down on us, then we don't need to pay attention to them anymore, let's go." Su Muxian, what a ghost. Su Turan laughed so hard in her heart. It turns out that the rumors weren't enough, they even added fuel to the fire right in front of her. She even got to see this with her own eyes after eating melons. Wan'er is truly amazing. Li Shun also secretly praised her in his heart. "Our future princess is really sharp, we must learn a lot from her in the future. As soon as Xia Wan'er entered the rental house, someone immediately greeted her warmly. The smile on her face was even more blooming than flowers. She followed the receptionist inside, carefully stating her requirements for the house she wanted to rent. "Don't worry, just follow your wishes, we have many suitable options here. Please have some tea, let me get the map and explain in detail." The receptionist was no pushover either. As soon as he saw Xia Wanyu walking with Xia Wan'er and Su Shouran, he immediately realized that these were all high-ranking people. Therefore, he led them into a quiet private room, served them delicious tea, fruits, and snacks very attentively. But the harmonious atmosphere did not last long. Su Muxian also walked in. "Receptionist, this prince is not coming with us, please take him to another room." Xia Wanyu did not give him any face. Who told him to dare to criticize her younger sister? Before the receptionist could reply, Su Muxian hurriedly said, "Miss Xia is joking. I came here with everyone, of course I will sit together." Su Muxian tried to squeeze in and sit next to Xia Wanyu and Su Shouran, but how could Su Shouran let him achieve his goal so easily? Su Muxian immediately signaled for Xia Wanyu to change seats, but Xia Wanyu saw through this intention, and immediately pulled Xia Wanyu's hand, not letting her give up her seat. Su Muxian had no choice but to walk over to Li Shun. But when he saw Li Shun crossing his legs and taking up all the remaining space, he angrily said, "This young master, isn't your posture too elegant? It's okay to be a little rude, that's how you show your manliness." Li Shun replied while swinging his legs. "There's no need to cross your legs and take up 2 seats, give up 1 seat." Su Muxian coldly ordered. "No giving up." Li Shun put on a sulky face, but his eyes secretly glanced towards his prince. When receiving the king's admiring gaze, Lai Thuan became even more arrogant. "Very good." Chu Muxian couldn't bear the humiliation from Xia Wanyu, but even a nobody like Li Shun dared to provoke him. How could he bear it? He immediately launched a tiger claw attack on Li Shun. Li Shun skillfully dodged, then toyed with Chu Muxian a few moves. But he pretended to be just a person who didn't know martial arts, being beaten to the point that even Xia Wanyu could see it. Of course, in front of Chu Muxian, he was even less of a match. Fortunately, Xia Wanyu quickly intervened. Seeing that Li Shun was about to lose, she coldly said, "Since the prince is not so elegant, we have no choice but to go somewhere else." After saying that, she stood up. Li Shun took the opportunity to escape the match, hurriedly following behind her. "Come back here!" Chu Muxian shouted, her voice filled with anger and disappointment. How humiliating! As a dignified prince, he was humiliated by Xia Wanyu. To this extent, it was truly too shameful. Xia Wanyu didn't care, and continued walking. As for Xia Wanyu, she put on a miserable expression, standing in front of him, looking pitiful. "Come back here, Miss Xia." Su Muxian gritted his teeth, telling himself to endure. When the day came for him to ascend the throne, he would definitely make Xia Wanyu suffer, make her regret. "You think that you can look down on me just by looking down? Do you think that we, the women of the Xia family, are easy to bully?" Xia Wanyu turned her head, her eyes filled with disdain, and she smiled mockingly. Su Muxian, very good, very good. You will know what suffering is. What do you want in the end? Su Muxian almost gritted his teeth, secretly looking at Xia Wanyu, signaling for help. Xia Wan'er hesitated for a moment, then said, "Sister, actually I've already." She had only finished speaking halfway when she noticed Su Muxian's warning gaze, so she changed her words, "Actually, I've admired the prince for a long time, I hope you don't make things difficult for him anymore. If you've said so, then let's just let the prince sit with us." Xia Wan'er returned to her seat, sitting next to Su Tu Ran, while Li Shun sat on Su Tu Ran's other side. Xia Wan'er sat on the opposite side, while Su Muxian squeezed in to sit next to her, his face no different from a cockroach. Su Tu Ran and Li Shun secretly thought, Xia Wan'er, the future princess consort, is really strong. Meanwhile, Su Muxian secretly calculated, Xia Wan'er was already taken by Su Tu Ran, now he can't openly steal her away, otherwise it will damage the reputation of a prince. However, if he used Xiao Waner as an excuse, he might still be able to approach Xiao Waner. Even though Xiao Waner had a bad reputation, if she received favor from a prince, surely Xie Jing, the father of the two sisters, would be moved to tears, right? At that time, the wedding gift would also be more generous, and there would also be political support. Of course, that was still not enough. If Xia Wanyu were to marry someone else, Xie Jing would definitely divide his forces to support her husband. Therefore, both Xia Wanyu and Xia Wanyu had to marry together. Only then would Xie Jing and his son be able to fully support him. Using the excuse of becoming friends with Xia Wanyu, the plan could be gradually implemented. Thinking of this, Su Muxian glanced at Su Xiaoran, secretly cursing in her heart, "You sicko, you dare to block my way, don't blame me for turning my back on you and being ruthless. That's great, then little sister won't have to leave the palace." Xia Wanyu looked satisfied. Su Muxian was puzzled. Palace? Xia Wanyu quickly recounted how Su Xiaoran came to ask for her hand in marriage at noon today, and how she herself would marry into the palace with Xia Wanyu. "Oh. In this life, the one I love the most is my sister, because you are really too good to me," Xia Waner said, then raised her hand to wipe the corner of her eyes as if wiping away tears. "That's right, if we sisters can always be together, it would be a perfect thing." Su Muxian interjected, smiling. The matter of Xia Waner marrying Xia Waner into the royal palace together, this was his plan. He must push this matter to success as soon as possible. If he didn't use a soft policy, he would have to use vicious means. Su Muxian had already thought of all sorts of sinister schemes in his heart, calculating them all, just waiting for the opportunity to execute them. It was because he was so busy calculating that his expression looked a little pensive. When Xia Waner saw this, she burst out laughing and asked, "Your Highness, do you have a stomachache?" Su Muxian turned to look at Xia Waner, not understanding what she was saying. Xia Wanyu continued, "This goddess saw that your expression looked like you were trying to hold back your bowel movements, so she thought you had a stomachache. Your Highness, if you also intend to ask your sister to marry you, then we will be family in the future, so don't be shy about sharing difficult matters. Holding back is not good for your health, just say it, this prince has nothing to go for." Su Muxian gritted his teeth, trying to get each word out, but no matter what, his words still sounded awkward. Su Turan and Li Shun stood by the side, watching this scene, and quickly turned their faces away, trying their best not to burst out laughing. Xia Waner was stunned, and quickly spoke up to cover up the situation. "Sister, you really are. How could you ask your Highness such impolite things right in front of him?" Xia Wanyu seriously replied, "Going to the toilet is a basic human need, what's there to be rude about? Is the prince like a unicorn that only knows how to eat but never comes out? That's sick. Prince, are you really not sick?" "No. Not at all." Su Muxian was so angry that he couldn't speak, he could only hastily deny, "I'm normal. I can go, I can also come out." After saying that, he felt like he had lost all face. He had completely lost all his dignity. Xia Wanyu patted his chest, pretending to be relieved. "It's great that the prince can excrete normally. Little sister, you can comfortably follow the prince in the future, don't worry about anything." "Can excrete normally?" Su Muxian, today I only intended to argue with Su Tunim, why did it turn into discussing the toilet now? Also, why did the word excrete come out of the mouth of such a noble lady? Su Turan and Li Shun stood by the side, trying their best to hold back their laughter, but the corners of their mouths kept twitching. Seeing Su Muxian about to go crazy, Xia Waner hurriedly changed the topic. "Alright, today we'll talk about..." But before she could finish, Xia Wanyu interrupted her again. "Alright, then let's continue talking about the engagement ceremony." Su Muxian and Xia Waner? Engagement ceremony? That's right, isn't the prince going to bring a matchmaker and gifts to the general's residence to ask for a marriage? Xia Wanyu tilted her head to look at Xia Waner. "Aran came to our residence this afternoon, did you see? You must have been a little jealous at that time, because I was able to help the general's residence earn some dowry. Now you have a chance, aren't you happy? Happy to the point of tears?" "Ah. Xiaowaner felt the corner of her mouth twitch, really not knowing what to say. Su Muxian thought that she finally had a chance to show off, so she immediately puffed out her chest and said in a serious voice, "Of course. Tomorrow I will immediately prepare the dowry and go to the general's residence to ask for her hand in marriage." The engagement ceremony? How much money would it cost? But as soon as she finished speaking, Xiaowaner immediately interrupted, "The prince's gift definitely can't be any less than the third prince's, right?" Xiaowaner was surprised, and was about to stop her when Su Muxian was quicker to say, "Of course. Are you kidding? How could I let Su Turan be better than me? Can't I, Su Muxian, hold my head up high in front of Xiaowaner? The engagement ceremony must be more grand than Su Turan's." Su Muxian secretly felt lucky that Su Turan had come first to ask for her hand in marriage, otherwise he would have lost even more face now. Ta Yuyandu smiled slightly, then turned to ask, "So Tunim, Anim, the gift from Noon, do you still have the list?" "Yes." So Tunim nodded, took out a list from his chest, and gave it to Somo Hien. Su Muxian took it, and immediately felt a heartache as soon as he glanced at it. Swordfish Field? 10,000 tales of military provisions? A set of scriptures personally copied by the Grand Master Jing Kong? This engagement gift is really too extravagant. Cough. Little brother, did you write down the wrong order? Why did you use the wrong dowry for the engagement gift? Su Muxian looked at Su Turan suspiciously. Impossible. Even if it was a dowry, this list was too extravagant. There's no mistake, the dowry would be double this list, and the dowry would be triple. Su Turan turned to look at Xiaowanyu, his voice deep and warm, "To be able to marry such a good girl, adieu, even if I have to exchange it with my life, I'm willing. But my life is still needed to stay with Adu for a long time, so I can only use a little thing to thank the old general and his wife for raising such a good daughter-in-law." After hearing that, Xiaowanyu turned around and replied, "Aran, you're so good to me. Double the dowry? Triple the dowry? There's a gold mine?" Yes, this sick man's ancestors really left him a few mines. But even if there were mines, he couldn't be so wasteful, right? Was he not afraid that his ancestors would come up from the grave and strangle him? Su Muxian cursed Su Turan in his heart. What should he do? He didn't have such a grand ancestor. A prestigious sword? He had two, and they still dared to give it to him. 10,000 taels of silver, that was the hard work and blood and sweat of so many years to earn it, yet they used it as a wedding gift as if they were cutting off a piece of meat. Not to mention, Monk Jingkong was someone who often traveled everywhere, like a dragon whose head was not visible. It was already difficult to meet him, let alone ask for the scriptures he personally copied. But Su Turan was different. It was said that Monk Jingkong had been helped by his ancestors, so he promised that as long as his descendants had any requests, he would definitely do his best to fulfill them. Right now, Su Muxian felt extremely resentful. Why didn't his ancestors leave behind any treasure? Or at least he should have been a soldier, so that now he wouldn't have to suffer so much that he would empty his family's assets, even endure the humiliation of making friends with such great forces. The bigger the engagement ceremony, the more it shows the respect the groom's family has for the bride's family. They are all the same royal family. Our Aran can prepare gifts of such standard, surely the royal family can do the same? Every single word of Xiaowanyu was like a sledgehammer hitting Su Muxian's self-esteem. This way of showing sincerity truly created terrible pressure. At this moment, Chu Muxian looked at Xiaowaner, hoping that she would help him out. Xiaowaner saw that the situation was a bit tense, and understood that Chu Muxian was not capable of preparing a grand gift like Su Turan, so she quickly explained, "Sister, it's not that the prince is not sincere, it's just that he feels that I'm a weak willow branch, so a simple gift with just enough meaning is enough." "No way." Xiaowandu resolutely replied, "No matter what, whether or not I've encountered difficulties is not the problem. In our family's heart, my sister has always been a precious gem. We absolutely will not let her suffer and accept any carelessness. If the prince only brings a few careless gifts, our family will definitely cancel the marriage." Isn't that the same as looking down on our Xia family's daughter? Xia Wandu continued, her voice filled with determination. Actually, our family is not greedy for the prince's gifts. But in life, there are things that need to be kept. Moreover, the gifts that the prince brings, whether it is a betrothal gift, a wedding gift, or a dowry, our Xia family will definitely respond with gifts that are appropriate. Is the prince still afraid of losing money? The last sentence was like a bucket of cold water splashed straight into Su Muxian's face, making him wake up. That's right, as long as he spent a little dowry, not only would he be able to keep his face, but he could also receive a response from the Xia family. Especially the military provisions, wouldn't this be a good opportunity to consolidate his power? Thinking it through, Su Muxian no longer hesitated, immediately deciding, all right. Just follow my list and prepare the gifts to go to the Xia family to propose. The scene changed to another discussion. Xia Wana looked at Su Muxian, her face full of doubt. Is the prince sure? Su Muxian replied with a determined gaze, definitely. I must work hard to get the best return. Su Tunim stood beside her, whispering to Lai Thuan, Big Brother fell for the bait. Adu is really amazing. At this moment, Ta Yuyandu smiled lightly, turned back to continue her work. Good, now let's get back to business. As soon as she finished speaking, she ordered her servants to bring out a large stack of floor plans, spread them on the table, and began to introduce them to everyone. Ta Yuyandu led Ta Yuyanni to look at them while listening to the explanation, from one place to another. At first, Ta Yuyanni did not realize anything unusual, but gradually, she discovered that the important details of the treasure map that she had memorized in her head were being disrupted by these maps. No, it cannot be mixed up like this. Sister, I think this place is quite good, let's decide on this place. Xia Wana appeared impatient, speaking hurriedly and then trying to recall the contents of the treasure map. But the more she tried to remember, the more vague the two contents on the map became. In desperation, Xia Wana pretended to faint. Xia Wana smiled slightly, with no intention of letting go, continuing to hold the map and shake it in front of Xia Wana's face. Sister, choosing land to rent a house shows our sincerity, we can't do it carelessly. Even if we faint, we have to try to endure it. Sister, I really can't take it anymore. Xia Wana pushed the map in Xia Wana's hand away, almost revealing her panic. Quickly, she rolled her eyes and added, anyway, these houses are not suitable, let's just ask outsiders for their opinions. After speaking, she turned to ask Li Shun, young Master Li, what do you think of these houses? Being called by name, Li Shun stopped drinking tea, cleared his throat and said, Miss Xia is right, the houses just now all have flaws, they are not suitable. What do you think about this house? The style is elegant. Xia Wana grabbed the map and pointed it at Li Shun. Li Shun looked at it and replied, the style is elegant, but a bit bland. What about this house? Simple, reasonable? Too monotonous. Then this one, the layout is unique, what do you think? The location is not good enough. This house is located in a quiet place, the style is simple, but not monotonous, should it be okay? Li Shun thought for a long time, still appearing hesitant. At this time, Xia Wandu sighed and said, it seems that the house in Xia Mansion is still the most comfortable. Hearing this, Li Shun immediately responded, that's right, that's right. If you can't find a house that suits you, why not rent a house in Xia Mansion? In the end, you'll go back to the house in Xia Mansion? Xia Wana was really angry. If they had already decided like that, what was the point of choosing this house? The more she thought about it, the more frustrated she became, because she almost forgot the contents of the treasure map. Li Shun shrugged, smiling calmly, comparing back and forth, we can see which place is the best. Now everyone has seen, the space in the Xia Mansion is indeed the best. Xia Wana glared at Li Shun, angrily cursing in her heart, this guy is really good at making trouble. But on the surface, she appeared to be gentle, this is really too good, my father will definitely be very happy. Xia Wana did not refute this statement, just quietly drank tea, seeming to be considering something. At this time, Su Xiuran secretly signaled to Li Shun. Receiving the signal, Li Shun quickly said, oh, it's already noon. Your Highness, you should invite us to lunch. After speaking, Li Shun also glanced at Su Xiuran as if to show off, I am the master's best servant. Su Muxian raised his head. What? This Li Shun guy dares to ask me to treat him to a meal? What dignity is that? But because of the situation, he had to suppress his anger and turn to ask Xia Wanyu, Miss Xia, I wonder where you want to have lunch. Xia Wanyu cleverly pushed the responsibility onto her younger sister. You should ask Wanyu's opinion on this matter. Xia Wanyu immediately seized the opportunity and replied, okay. The Drunken Chicken Restaurant. Her purpose was very clear, choose a comfortable place to conveniently find a way to attract people. Su Muxian did not hesitate, okay, then let's go there. Xia Wanyu coldly said, no. Su Muxian turned back to look at Xia Wanyu, what else? Xia Wanyu immediately changed to a coquettish tone, sister, come with me, okay? Su Muxian interrupted, his voice full of dissatisfaction, come on, eating is just a small matter, why do we have to argue? After a few words, Xia Wanyu finally spoke up, if not, then choose the Drunken Fairy Restaurant. On the way, Su Muxian looked at Xia Wanyu, then turned to Xia Wanyu, suddenly suggesting, or we can go to the vegetarian restaurant. The vegetarian restaurant was the most famous in the capital for its exquisite vegetarian dishes. It was said that it had served meals to the Empress Dowager, and was highly praised by her. Even though it was a vegetarian restaurant, the prices here were not cheap. Then let's decide on that. Su Muxian said as he ordered someone to prepare the carriage. Everyone quickly got on the carriage, and headed towards the vegetarian restaurant together. At the vegetarian restaurant, after choosing the quietest and most polite place, Su Muxian wanted to show his politeness and let Xia Wanyu order. Xia Wanyu pulled Xia Wanyu up to order together, but Xia Wanyu immediately refused, little sister, ordering is a difficult task, how can we young ladies do it? Young Master Li, you order. After speaking, Xia Wanyu threw the menu to Li Shun, a distinguished guest. Li Shun took the menu, pretended to be serious, and pointed at the menu and asked Su Muxian, Your Highness, do you think these dishes are good? Su Muxian looked at the dishes that Li Shun pointed to, all of them were the most expensive dishes in the vegetarian restaurant. His heart ached, and he gently refused, but Li Shun didn't care. If that's the case, Your Highness thinks it's good, then just choose these dishes. Su Muxian felt a wave of evil energy rush straight to his head. What's good? Li Shun ordered another dish, then politely asked Su Muxian, Your Highness, is this enough? Su Muxian was about to say it was enough when Li Shun answered himself, of course it's not enough. Then Li Shun ordered another dish. Your Highness, do you think it's enough? Li Shun asked again, and after asking, he didn't wait for Su Muxian to answer and answered himself, the food in the capital is very delicate, one plate is only the size of the palm of your hand, it's probably okay to order more. After speaking, Li Shun continued to order another dish. Su Muxian gritted his teeth and asked, You haven't finished ordering yet? Finished? Your Highness, are you eating that little? Ah, Li Shun sat up to hear, suddenly lowered his voice, leaned close to his ear and whispered, People say that men who eat a lot are strong in that area. If they even eat little, then that area must be. Your Highness, are you very weak? After speaking, Li Shun deliberately bent down to glance at Su Muxian's lower body. Su Muxian was so angry that he almost vomited blood and died on the spot. Xia Wanyu sat to the side and smiled, not forgetting to add fuel to the fire. Young Master Li is truly knowledgeable. Chu Xiaoran also immediately echoed, as expected of an experienced person. Chu Muxian clenched his fists, his joints cracking loudly. He tried to suppress his anger, and sneered, Young Master Li, you just arrived in the capital, you better stop causing trouble, otherwise you might lose your life. Hearing this, Li Shun not only wasn't afraid but also glanced at Chu Muxian, raised his neck and said, With old General Xia backing me up, what is there to be afraid of? Chu Muxian really couldn't hold it in anymore, and was about to pull out a hidden weapon to deal with Li Shun when he suddenly heard Xia Wanyu speak. Your Highness, young Master Li's words are a bit inappropriate, but you don't need to be angry. Originally being teased by Xia Wanyu, now suddenly being defended by her, the anger in Su Muxian's heart eased a bit. He gently asked, Are the dishes like this okay? Xiao Wanyu did not answer directly but turned to ask Su Turan, Ran, how is it? Su Turan smiled and replied, as long as Adu can see it, I can see it too. Only then did Xiao Wanyu turn back to Su Muxian and say, then there's no problem. Su Muxian, so what? I have to watch the two of them being affectionate in front of me again. The dishes were served one by one, all in the style of vegetarian food and reciting Buddha's name. Everyone ate silently without saying anything. Only Xiao Wanyu and Su Turan ate while picking up food for each other, their eyes exchanging as if they had telepathy, causing Su Muxian to look on in unbearable anger. In fact, Su Muxian really wanted to say something, but in the end he stopped. However, his heart was still filled with resentment. The meal finally ended. Except for Li Shun, who ate a little more, everyone else ate less, so when the meal ended, there was still a lot of food left on the table. Young Master Li, then I'll leave the rest of the food to you. Su Muxian gritted his teeth, speaking as if he was stressing each word. Your Highness, pack all the food and take it back, after all, there's a dog in your mansion. Li Shun burped and turned to call the waiter, waiter, bring the food box. The waiter received the order and turned to get the box. You. Su Muxian looked at Li Shun, his eyes wide open as if they were about to shoot fire. Seeing that Su Muxian was about to explode, Xiao Wanyu quickly interrupted, I'm tired, let's go back to the mansion and rest. After speaking, she stood up and prepared to leave. At this moment, a coquettish voice rang out, Your Highness, what a coincidence. It turned out to be Zhao Rongru. Zhao Rongrua said as she walked over, intimately leaning closer to Su Muxian, Your Highness, I didn't expect to meet you just by having a meal, what a fate, how about you share a meal with this goddess? Su Muxian looked at the table full of food in front of him, and Zhao Rongrua's sudden appearance, and only thought of one thing in his heart, quickly pay and leave. He laughed, finally finding some joy, haha, I just thought it was strange, why did they choose all these strange dishes today? It turns out that there are distinguished guests. Since the princess said so, why not invite everyone to sit together? Finally, he found someone to shoulder the debt. This goddess came here to pray for blessings, so she often eats at this vegetarian restaurant. Zhao Rongrua said as she deliberately acted ambiguous, leaning closer to Su Muxian. They looked like a couple. Zhao Rongru put on a smug expression, her disdainful gaze swept over Xiao Wanyu and the others. Xiao Wanyu was too lazy to respond to her, and stood up to leave. Su Shuran quickly followed by Xiao Weiner. Su Muxian finally saw an opportunity to escape, and politely said, Princess, we're full, please enjoy. After speaking, she walked straight. Your Highness, Zhao Rongru called out, but Su Muxian seemed to have a ghost chasing him, one step turned into two, and quickly left the restaurant. In the end, only Li Shun was left, and he immediately used a flattering tone to say to Zhao Rongru, Your Prince, please enjoy. These dishes were originally intended to be brought back to the palace, to feed the dogs, but luckily you were there so they weren't wasted. What? Zhao Rongru immediately became furious after hearing this, and conveniently picked up a teacup and threw it straight at Li Shun. Li Shun quickly dodged, skillfully leaning to the side. Zhao Rongrua's teacup did not hit Li Shun, but hit the table, causing the food box to fall to the ground with a loud bang, creating a mess. When Princess Zhao Rongrua paid, in addition to the food, she also had to pay for the broken dishes. Leaving the restaurant, Xiao Wandu turned to ask Li Shun, Young Master Li, you just arrived in the capital, you must be missing a few items, right? Li Shun was good at pretending to probe for information, so he was very sharp at guessing the intentions of others through their words and expressions. Hearing Xiao Wandu's question, he immediately guessed her intention, and immediately replied, Of course we need to. First, we need to buy a few sets of clothes. These clothes are all too crude, only suitable for wearing in the countryside. Wearing them like this in the capital is both stuffy and loses value. As for the rest, we can think about it after we buy the things. Xiao Wanyu nodded, Alright, Qinji Fabric Shop is right across the street, let's go there for a walk to help pass the time. They arrived at Qinji Fabric Shop. Qinji was the most famous fabric shop in the capital, specializing in selling fabrics, tailoring clothes, and jewelry for men and women. Li Shun walked in and chose a set of clothes. Xia Wanyu pulled Xia Waner to choose a set. Su Xiuren also chose a set, then saw Su Muxian sitting next to him drinking tea, and said with a smile, "Brother, you should also choose a few sets. Just now, Big Sister invited us to dinner, this time when we buy clothes, let's let her pay for it." Hearing this, Su Muxian immediately felt a little moved. What could be better than buying something with someone paying for it? However, he tactfully refused. "There's no need to buy clothes, but I'll buy some fabric, do you want to give it away? The cloths you buy can be used as gifts for guests, it's practical and not wasteful." Chu Tunim generously waved his hand, "Give it all away." Chu Mo Hien's spirit was greatly lifted when he heard this, he smiled brightly, and immediately followed the staff to the next stall to choose the cloths. He was eagerly calculating how he would cut Chu Tunim. While Chu Mo Hien was dreaming about his plan, when the staff brought over a pile of cloths as high as a mountain, he realized that Xia Wandu and Chu Tunim had disappeared without a trace. Chu Mo Hien realized that he had been tricked, a feeling of humiliation and anger welled up, his two hands clenched into fists, his knuckles cracking. Chu Tunim, that weakling, how dare he play with him? He was about to leave, but was pulled back by the staff. "Your Highness, do you still want these cloths?" "No." Chu Mo Hien jerked his hand away, causing the staff member to almost fall over. But after taking a few steps, he was called back by the staff. "Your Highness, the clothes that Miss Ta and young Master so chose have not been paid for yet. Do you want to pay here or bring them back to the palace and return them?" "Your Highness, you have always been known for being kind and benevolent, loving the people like your own children, and getting along with your brothers. We have always admired you. That is why I asked the shop owner to give you a discount. Today all the goods purchased will only be charged 88% of the original price." The staff spoke a series of flattering words, causing Su Muxian to calm down a bit. The reputation of King of the Wise that he had worked so hard to build could not be destroyed so easily. Although he was unwilling, he had to take out the money to pay. As soon as he finished paying, he was about to tell the staff to bring the items back to the palace, when suddenly a loud voice rang out, "Your Highness, what a coincidence." Turning around, it turned out that the person was Li Guangcai, the second richest merchant in the capital. Although he was ranked second, because the richest man in the capital was extremely mysterious, almost no one knew his true identity, Li Guangcai became the target that the nobles in the capital competed to make friends with. The most famous shops such as Qinji Textiles, the most luxurious winehouse, the largest manor, the most expensive cosmetics store, the most luxurious jewelry store, etc. were all owned by that mysterious wealthy merchant. It was rumored that the merchant had the surname Chen, but no one had ever seen his face. Because there was no way to approach the richest man, Li Guangcai, the second richest man, became the sought-after target. "Boss Li, hello." Su Muxian clasped his hands in greeting, thinking to himself, "The fish has taken the bait." Wealthy but dependent on children, this saying was not wrong at all. Li Guangcai has an only son named Li Bao, who is famous for being a debauched person in the capital, gambling and having no shortage of women. Not long ago, in a fight over a prostitute, Li Bao was defeated miserably and is currently locked up in the prison of Li Tujiam. Coincidentally, the person responsible for judging this case is none other than Chu Mo Hien, Li Tu Kan. In order to save his son, Li Guangcai brought gold, silver, and jewels to bribe him many times, but Chu Mo Hien consistently refused. Chu Mo Hien has always maintained an honest image, not involved in dirty money, but in reality, he just wanted to play with the bait a little longer. When Chu Mo Hien had not yet taken up the position of Li Tu Kan, he had wanted to befriend Li Guangcai, but he did not expect to be looked down upon by him. Now that the situation has turned around, Li Guangcai has to run to him for help. Having waited for him for so long, it is time to pull the net. This time, not only did he demand payment for the fabric bill, but also the dowry for the future marriage. Li Guangcai had to take responsibility for everything. Even the engagement ceremony and the wedding ceremony, Li Guangcai had to take care of everything. "Is your Highness interested in going to the fabric store today?" Li Guanzai stroked his big belly, trying his best to bend over, smiling flatteringly. Ah, the mansion is short on fabric, I specially stopped by here to buy some. Waiter, please pay. After speaking, Su Muxian reached out to take the money bag, but Li Guanzai quickly stopped him, waving his hand repeatedly. Oh my, no need. After speaking, he immediately threw the money bag to the staff, generously declaring, whatever your highness needs, we will pack it all up and have someone deliver it to the mansion. I will take care of all the expenses. Thank you, Boss Li. Su Muxian nodded and smiled softly. The waiter standing next to him immediately asked, Your Highness, do you need anything else? We just got a lot of new fabrics, enough for both men and women. Before Su Muxian could reply, Li Guanzai hurriedly said, Buy them all. Women are beautiful because of silk, horses are beautiful because of saddles, your highness has a great temperament, of course you must wear the best clothes. That's right. The waiter also quickly echoed, grinning. Indeed, we need a few more items, but we absolutely cannot let Boss Li pay the price. As he spoke, Su Muxian took out a list from his sleeve, which was actually a list written by Su Shaoran. He handed the list to Li Guanzai and said, However, Boss Li is the one who understands the most about the goods, so why don't you help me choose these items? Okay. Li Guanzai took the list, feeling as happy as if he had found gold. Su Muxian was finally willing to accept the bribe, so his son would definitely be saved. But there is one thing, we absolutely cannot let Boss Li pay the price. Just tell someone to bring the goods to the mansion, and I will pay in full later. Su Muxian pretended to be upright, and gave Li Guanzai serious instructions. Li Guanzai originally wanted to say, It's fine, why does the prince need to calculate? But as someone who was experienced and used to reading expressions, he quickly understood Su Muxian's intentions. Chu Muxian not only wanted benefits, but also reputation. Your Highness is truly an upright and honest person who serves the people, I will definitely take care of everything. Li Guanzai clasped his hands and bowed his head, his expression respectful. If that is the case, then I would like to thank Boss Li. After a few polite words, Li Guanzai took his leave, and hurriedly prepared gifts to bring to the palace, to save his son. Having solved the financial problem, Chu Muxian's mood immediately brightened. He was about to leave the fabric shop to return to the palace, when he saw Xiao Wanyu's group returning, holding a string of candied hawthorns in their hands. Seeing them, a feeling of being offended rose in Chu Muxian's heart again. He was about to tease Chu Tu-ren a few sentences, when Xiao Wan'er stepped forward, handed the string of candied hawthorns to Chu Muxian, and said, Your Highness, this is the candied hawthorns that elder sister bought for you. Miss Xia bought it? Chu Muxian immediately felt all the gloom in his heart disappear. Finally, his hard work paid off? Was Wanyu no longer cold towards him? Su Muxian took the string of candied fruit. Although he didn't like sweets and even frowned when he took a bite, he felt an indescribable sweetness in his heart. That's right, big brother. Just now, we saw that everyone hadn't finished choosing the fabrics, so we went to buy the candied fruit first. Can we pay now? Su Tu-ran said as he pretended to take money from his pocket, as if he was about to pay. No need, I've already paid. You can use that money to buy medicine. Su Muxian said. Big brother, how can I let you pay? I'll pay you back. We're brothers, why bother calculating? Just keep the money and use it. Keep it to buy a good coffin. Then I'll thank you, big brother. Su Tu-ran smiled and said. Your Highness is indeed generous. Xiao Wanyu praised. That's right, Your Highness is truly a trustworthy friend. Li Shan added. Xiao Wan'er also added, others might forget righteousness for profit, but Your Highness always forgets righteousness for profit. Being praised endlessly by everyone, Su Muxian gradually let down his guard, and was then lured into buying quite a few more things as they continued walking. However, compared to the debt Li Guanzai had to bear, these things were nothing. On the contrary, in front of Xiao Wanyu, he always showed himself to be generous and righteous, using that to compare with Su Tu-ran, causing him to be branded as stingy. Not long after, Wan Yu indeed had a better impression of Su Muxian than Su Turan, gradually leaning towards him. Each person had their own calculations, but they were strangely compatible, continuing to hang out until late afternoon before parting ways, each returning home. Returning to the mansion, Xia Wanyu immediately ran back to her room, taking out the treasure map that had been carefully hidden. However, she discovered that there were some unclear marks on the map, and she needed to find a way to decode it to understand everything hidden in the treasure. I have to think of a way to get the other half of the map from Xia Wanyu. Xia Wanyu secretly calculated in her heart. After dinner, Xia Wanyu returned to her room. It was not until midnight that she woke up, quickly changing into her night clothes. After waiting for a while, she heard rhythmic knocking on the door, knock knock knock, knock knock knock. Following the signal, Xia Wanyu opened the door and nimbly jumped out. "Ah you." Su Xiaoran appeared, also changed into her night walking clothes. Xia Wanyu didn't say anything, just pulled Su Xiaoran with her and flew onto the roof. The two of them passed over the roof tiles and walls, quickly arriving at Xia Wanyu's courtyard. The two of them didn't say anything, just stood on the wall, silently observing Xia Wanyu's bedroom. At this moment, Xia Wanyu appeared especially nervous. Her palms were drenched in sweat, tightly holding on to Su Xiaoran. After a period of secretly observing, Xia Wanyu discovered that Xia Wanyu had mysterious movements. She immediately asked Su Xiaoran to dispatch people to follow her. Not only did she dispatch the secret guards, Su Xiaoran also personally came here to assist. He patted Xia Wanyu's hand lightly, signaling to calm her down and also to inform her that everything had been arranged properly. Not long after, the light in the bedroom turned on. Xia Wanyu seemed to have woken up. She walked back and forth for a while, then turned off the lights, covered her pillow with a blanket, and gently crawled out of the window. Xia Wanyu and Su Xiaoran immediately followed. Xia Wanyu left the mansion, following the deserted alleys. These alleys were winding, gloomy, and dark. On the way, Xia Wanyu occasionally looked around, as if she was afraid of being followed. Xia Wanyu and Su Xiaoran followed closely behind, being so careful that they didn't dare to breathe loudly. The secret guards accompanying them also took advantage of the darkness to hide their figures, not leaving any traces. After turning through a few alleys, Xia Wanyu climbed over the wall and crawled into an old house. Xia Wanyu trembled slightly, feeling excited, secretly guessing whether Xia Wanyu was hiding the treasure map in this house. She was about to drag Su Xiaoran in to check, but suddenly she saw movement in the house. From inside, two people wearing identical clothes to Xia Wanyu appeared, each going in a different direction into two different alleys. Xia Wanyu and Su Xiaoran looked at each other, quickly making a decision: call a group of secret guards to follow each fake Xia Wanyu, and at the same time send more people to investigate the abandoned house just now. The two of them continued to follow one of the remaining Xia Wanyu. Just like that, after passing through a few more small alleys, the Xia Wanyu in front of them jumped over the wall into another house. Not long after, two new Xia Wanyu appeared from that house, splitting off in two different directions. Xia Wanyu and Su Xiaoran once again divided the work, sending secret guards to follow each person, while they continued to choose one Xia Wanyu to monitor. After repeating the journey through the alleys, that Xia Wanyu led them into another old house. But this time, two people who looked exactly like Xia Wanyu appeared from inside the house. This escape method is really clever. Xia Wanyu gritted her teeth, feeling lucky that she had brought enough people with her, otherwise she would have definitely been lost. This time, they followed a Xia Wanyu until she reached a vacant lot near the cemetery. Xia Wanyu stood in front of a grave, her hands clasped behind her back, staring intently for a long time. Then, she lay down beside the grave as if she was resting, lying there for nearly an hour. Xia Wanyu began to suspect. At that moment, Xia Wanyu suddenly jumped up like a carp, dusted herself off, and continued on her way. They followed her until she returned to a crowded street, entering a small tofu shop. Xia Wanyu rushed in and exposed her identity. Sure enough, the person they were following turned out to be a maid in the Xia family's mansion, disguised as Xia Wanyu. The maid changed her clothes, pulled down her veil, and continued grinding beans and making tofu as usual. It was almost dawn, and the secret guards who had been sent out had not yet brought back any news. With no other choice, Xia Wanyu and Su Shouran had to return to a villa belonging to the Su family's property to discuss. This was also where the secret guards had agreed to gather if they discovered the whereabouts of the real Xia Wanyu. Over time, the secret guards returned one by one to report the situation. No one had been able to track down the real Xia Wanyu. Each of the houses they searched led to an abandoned well. However, they had thoroughly examined each well, but had not found any useful clues. I didn't expect Xia Wanyu to be so cunning. Xia Wanyu turned to Su Shou'er in frustration and asked, "Think about it, where is she?" Perhaps from the beginning, the one who left the Xia family mansion wasn't Xia Wanyu. Su Shou'er analyzed with a serious face. Xia Wanyu fell into deep thought. Could it be that Xia Wanyu really never appeared? If so, who left the mansion? What was the purpose of deliberately creating a fake scene? Was she afraid of being followed by the Xia mansion's secret guards? With a jumble of thoughts in her heart, Xia Wanyu decided to return to the Xia mansion. It was not convenient for Su Shou'er to stay for long, so she sent her back and quietly left. Returning to the Xia mansion, Xia Wanyu changed into her usual clothes and headed straight to Lanfeng Pavilion. When she arrived, she was stopped by Jin Ping. Xia Wanyu didn't bother to argue, directly knocked Jin Ping down and rushed into the room. As soon as she entered, she saw Xia Wanyu sitting up, her face full of confusion. "What's the matter that you're in such a hurry for?" "I had another nightmare, so I came here to have someone to talk to so I don't get scared." At this moment, Xia Wanyu was truly grateful for Xia Wanyu's nightmare disorder. While chatting, she secretly observed Xia Wanyu's reaction. She had to admit, Xia Wanyu's acting skills were truly superb. When she heard what she said, Xia Wanyu's expression immediately changed, pretending to be innocent mixed with a bit of guilt very naturally. Even though Xia Wanyu had changed her clothes, with her many years of martial arts experience, Xia Wanyu had a keen sense of smell and could still smell a faint scent of blood on Xia Wanyu's body. She guessed that Xia Wanyu had just returned and hadn't had time to shower yet. There was no mistake. This smell of blood was most likely related to the torture of Xia Wanyu to force her to ask about the treasure map. Thinking of her younger sister's pain, Xia Wanyu clenched her fists and immediately threw a punch at Xia Wanyu. "Little sister, let me help you dispel your fear and nightmare." Xia Wanyu rushed forward and pressed Xia Wanyu down, sitting on her and continuously punching and kicking. However, she still maintained her rationality and didn't completely lose control. Even though she used force, she didn't really hit any vital spots or cause serious damage to Xia Wanyu. "Sister, I remember now, it's about the treasure map." Xia Wanyu immediately shouted, and indeed succeeded in making Xia Wanyu stop. "Tell me quickly." Xia Wanyu felt like her heart was about to jump out of her chest. All the clues were gradually becoming clear. Xia Wanyu struggled to get up, straightened her wrinkled clothes, and said indifferently, "But I can only remember part of it." Xia Wanyu didn't reply, but walked straight to the table, took out a map that had been spread out, and showed it to Xia Wanyu. Xia Wanyu didn't hesitate, took the map, and started drawing on it. After all, she still had another half of the map to continue controlling Xia Wanyu. After drawing for a while, Xia Wanyu put down her pen, pretending to be helpless. "Sister, I can only remember this much." Xia Wanyu took the map, and the more she looked at it, the more excited she became. Although this map was redrawn by Xia Wanyu, the structure on it was really very similar to what Xia Wanyu had drawn. As twin sisters, the two always had a special sympathy. Since they were young, they practiced together, shared many memories and interests, so Xia Wanyu's drawing style is very similar to Xia Wanyu's. In particular, there is a very secret symbol on the map, a small snake. This is a symbol that the two sisters created when they were young, when playing games, used to signal that one of them is in danger. Last night, Nok really met her sister. Although Xia Wanyu's heart was in turmoil, she still suppressed her emotions and pretended to be happy. "That's right, although the map is only a part, these two halves have already matched. Take it slow, little sister. I believe that very soon you will remember everything. MMM. When the time comes, hand it over to father, and let him send someone to retrieve the treasure. Father will no longer have to worry about military provisions. Siawana replied obediently and filially. Little sister, your illness has really gotten better, that's really good. Why don't you try to rest a little more, let me stay with you. Siawanyu still maintained the appearance of an older sister who loved her younger sister very much. Humph. Acting? Who's afraid of who? Siawanyu pretended to smile on the surface, but in her heart she kept cursing. She immediately waved her hands repeatedly, no need, how can I let you work so hard? Siawanyu said, it's okay, I don't mind. When you get better, I'll make up for it later. In this house, only I can help you overcome your nightmares. Mother always just hurts herself, she can't help at all. Siawanyu pretended to laugh a few times, then replied, if that's the case, then why don't you teach Jean Ping this method again? Every time she has a nightmare, let them hit you a few times, it will definitely wake you up. I guarantee that mother won't be bothered by you anymore, and won't worry about getting hurt. Hearing this, Siawanyu secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Mother would not be bothered by you for the time being. She immediately pretended to agree, that's good. But you must tell Jean Ping not to go too far, to avoid hurting me. In her heart, Siawanyu cursed, it's best to beat me until I'm hurt. But on the outside, she still obediently nodded, not forgetting to add, sister is really good to me. Siawanyu said, sister is just a good older sister. Okay, little sister. I'm going. If you have nightmares again, and Jean Ping doesn't know what to do, remember to call me. Siawanyu tried to suppress her frustration and forced a smile, all right. After a whole night of exhaustion, returning to her room, Siawanyu almost collapsed on the bed. Before she could even fall asleep, she was woken up by someone. Su Muxian came to propose. This bastard. How dare he compare with Aran? How could Su Muxian compare to her Aran? Siawanyu walked into the main hall, her stomach full of anger. In the hall, Chu Muxian was handing a sword to Xia Xingwao. Is this the Lingxiao sword that people are talking about? Xia Xing pulled out his sword, caressing it while not taking his eyes off it. Siawanyu quietly walked over, both hands grabbing Xia Xing's shirt. Xia Xing was startled, and reflexively swung his sword, almost injuring Siawanyu. Wanyu, what are you doing? Be careful not to get your hand cut off by the sword. Xia Xing pushed her away, seemingly annoyed that she had ruined the moment of admiring the precious sword. Big brother, let me ask you something. Siawanyu smiled, if your wife and this precious sword fell into the well, which one would you save first? What nonsense are you talking about? Ta Han knocked her on the head and replied half-jokingly, of course, saving people first. No matter how precious the sword is, it must be used to protect the country and protect the people, right? Siawanyu laughed, brother, your answer is so textbook. I'll tell my future sister-in-law. Xia Xing replied, nonsense. Which future sister-in-law? I don't have anyone in my heart yet. Stop talking nonsense, let me see the sword. Hearing this, Siawanyu couldn't help but feel that her brother's marriage was really troublesome. Currently, you love swords the most, but when sister-in-law comes back, you will definitely love her the most. Siawanyu also laughed teasingly. Xia Xing smiled foolishly, didn't refute, and continued to study the Lingxiao sword in his hand. Haha, the precious sword is a match for heroes, the sword has finally met a worthy owner. Beside him, Su Muxian didn't forget to take the opportunity to improve his image in front of Xia Xing. Afterwards, he gave Xie Jing another stack of banknotes. Putting on a face full of worry for the country and the people, he said, General Xia, the national treasury is currently empty, the army is short of food, I respectfully offer 10,000 taels of silver privately for military expenses. I hope that old General Xia will accept it. Your Highness. Xie Jing smiled brightly, his eyes shining, and he did not hesitate to praise Chu Muxian. Chu Muxian humbly said, Old General Xia is too kind, contributing for the emperor, this is what I must do. It's just a pity that my family is not rich enough, 10,000 taels is just a small amount, not enough to solve all the difficulties of the army. This sentence was no different from implicitly criticizing Iran for being stingy, not willing to spend on the army. Beside her, Siawanner immediately echoed, "That's right, the prince's patriotism is truly admirable, he is truly a shining example for future generations. Father, in the future, I must definitely support the prince." "Little sister, let father decide these matters, it's not our turn to interfere," Siawanyu immediately retorted. Siawanyu refused to give up, saying, "Why can't I say it? When the country is at peace, we, the women, can live well." Siawanyu smiled faintly. "Little sister is indeed as patriotic as men, truly very suitable for the prince. The treacherous man and the shameless woman, truly a perfect match." Next, Chu Mushan gave Yang Tong a few rare scriptures, and continued to praise his achievements, making Yang Tong extremely happy. Siawanyu looked at these expensive gifts and fell into deep thought. These were all prepared by the merchant Li Guangcai for Chu Mushan. In his previous life, Chu Mushan recruited Li Guangcai under his command, and with his enormous wealth, he eliminated countless opponents and finally won the throne. It was just that at that time, the fool thought he had won big, but in the end, he lost to the point of having nothing left, and even implicated his entire family.